Good evening and welcome. I'm the Town Chairwoman, Lori Giamatti. Please note that tonight's meeting, a community information opportunity, is not a town board meeting. No decisions can nor will be made. Tonight's informational town hall presentation is a follow-up to an initial presentation by NextEra Energy at a town board meeting regarding a proposal of a large-scale solar project in Rome on Meteor Timber-owned lands. The town board, like you, is here to learn what, if any, new information is available about the proposed project. NextEra has brought a large team, so please direct all questions to them. We ask that everyone remain respectful of one another this evening during the presentation and when called upon to ask a question. Thank you.
All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Danilo Cabrera. I'm the project director for Camelot Energy Center. So we have an hour today, and I want to make this hour as productive as possible. So the structure of this, I see we have more individuals than we did last time around. So we'll go over some of the same information, just kind of introduce our company, talk about what Camelot Energy Center project is, and then after that, we are going to talk about what we've done since the last time we were here, what progress we've made in some of these areas. After that, we will have a question and answer specifically to the project, right? So any information you have, we're going to use that time for a question and answer specific to the project. And then after that, we'll have a session where you can talk about your support or concern regarding the project, where if you'd like to speak up, you have a minute to let us know your concern. And then we'll try to avoid repetitive concerns. If someone else brings up the same concern you have, we'll, let's try to avoid just repetitive, right? Again, to try to optimize the time that we have here today. When we go through that session, we're going to ask you for your name, and we're going to ask you for your address. If it's an individual concern that you have, maybe because you live close to the project, please, reach out to us right after the presentation. We'll get your information, and we could talk one-on-one on how we could address your personal concern, maybe because of the area of where you're living. Okay. With that said, let's go ahead and get started. So one of the things that we want to talk about and how we always start most of our meetings is the values, the corporate values of our company. These are values that are instilled in us, in our culture, and we talk about we're committed to excellence, we do the right thing, and most importantly, we treat people with respect, right? So it's kind of like a great precedence to this meeting. We can agree to disagree on a lot of different things, and then if we do a respect right thing, we get to an outcome that could be a good outcome for both parties. So NextEra Energy is comprised of two large companies, right? One is Florida Power and Light, which is the largest utility company in the state of Florida, and one of the largest utility companies in the country. The other part is NextEra Energy Resources, which is the renewable development side of the company, which is what we do, right? We develop wind, solar projects across different states across the country, right? We're the largest developer in the world from wind and solar energy. Just to kind of give you an idea, we've been doing this for a long time. We do it right, and that's why we're the largest from that perspective. In Wisconsin, you can see here, right, we've been investing them since 2007, approximately 500 employees we've used over time, over 10 million in property taxes. That was a 2022 number. As we wait to get this year's number, 114 million annual payroll and 2.6 billion in capital investment in the state, right? Here are some of the projects where we've developed, some we still own and operate today, right? We have a nuclear center, Point Beach. We have a solar project, which is Point Beach Solar, right next to the nuclear plant. We have a wind plant in Dodge County called Butler Ridge. And then we've developed several projects where we end up selling it to our customers, which are usually the energy companies across the state, right? So just to give you a high level how solar works, right? We install and construct the solar panels, right? That goes into the transmission system and then eventually goes into the residential home. So the solar panels that you see that generate the electricity will be pushed into the transmission system, which then is distributed to the communities, right? Just from a high level perspective. Right, so now we talk about the project specifically, right? Located here in the town of Rome. It's about a 250 capital investment, 250 million capital investment project to get it. It's a 200 megawatt project, right? So when you talk about that, it powers about 50,000 homes. It's going to be, now it starts getting a little more technical, so, but it connects to 161 kilovolt American Transmission Company substation, Saratoga. And the target for this to be operational is 2027. Now, when we say January 2027, that is fluid. There's a lot of things that take place, studies, sometimes the permitting process and so forth. So it could be April 2027. So that date and usually months can change. So here is a boundary, right? What does the boundary mean? This is the section of land that we have secured, but not all of it will be used for this 200 megawatt project, right? As you mentioned in the last town meeting, when we have a layout, because a lot of the questions are where the panels are going to go and so forth, that's considered layout. We're not there yet, right? So as we get to the conversation of what we've done since our last meeting in June, we'll talk about some certain things that have taken place, but we're not there to the point where we know what the layout is going to be for the solar project. We're still within this boundary, though.
I don't understand what that is. Can you explain it?
Yeah, where's the streets? Where's the street names?
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, so then so how about let's do this. So it's the boundary. This is the timber boundary. Maybe some of the folks can specify exactly what the boundary is. We have some representatives here from Meteor.
Yeah.
The mic is live, so you can talk into the mic.
I think the question is, where the town hall is in reference to the boundary.
Can I show them where it's at?
Wow.
There's the trap, WTA right here.
All right, so what he's saying is WTA.
You're blowing up.
And the town hall is right down here, so right, the town hall, the boundary right in front of the town hall. The boundary is right in front of the town hall, right? That's what he's indicating right there, so. Okay? So I'm gonna bring up our community manager to talk about some of the local community benefits of having a solar project in the town.
Hi everyone, my name is Matt Johnson. I'm the Community Engagement Manager for Wisconsin and a few other states. Wisconsin has a very specific tax system for how local governments receive tax revenue from projects such as this one. It's a very specific formula, but the 200 megawatt size project that we're aiming for would generate $800,000 of tax revenue. It's a very specific calculation, but essentially the town would receive 5/12 of the money. It's about like $333,000 a year, and then the remaining goes to Adams County. So over a 25-30 year lifespan for the project, it's about like $10 million. Those revenue payments go straight to the town as well as the county. They're unrestricted aid payments that the town board can use for what they want, or the county board can utilize for what they want as well. There's jobs created for this solar project. It's hundreds of jobs during construction phase, and then 3 to 4 long-term operations and maintenance staff during the operational phase. And while the project is being constructed, all those hundreds of workers will generate more economic activity in the region as well.
Okay. So when we begin to build and develop some of these projects, there's several environmental items that we have to go through, right? So you see some of them here. Local species reviews, bad acoustic monitoring, habitat assessments, right? Avian use and nest survey. So there's a list of them. And then what we've done since June, we've taken some of them, and we have our environmental consultant here that can talk through some of these items.
My name is John Wader from Stantec Consulting. I'm an environmental and permitting consultant on behalf of NextEra. So in June of this past summer, we completed wetland and waterway surveys within the property boundary, as well as land cover surveys, invasive species surveys, and critical habitat surveys for threatened endangered species. We also did a portal review of the Wisconsin DNR Natural Heritage Inventory to look for what types of threatened endangered species might exist on the site or what have been previously mapped in the site. And we also did a desktop cultural resources review, looking for any kind of historic resources, architectural resources, stuff like that. And then we also looked at an initial desktop review of any contaminated sites in the area that might affect construction on the property. Studies to be completed. Once we actually have a layout, we will do ambient noise surveys throughout the site. That basically is background noise that exists on the site, and then we put that information into a model that spits out some data when the facility is functioning to show how much noise is produced by the facility itself. And we'll also do some visual simulations that show what the site will look like with panels on it, substation on it, those kind of things. And then we will actually do cultural field surveys as well as a full-blown phase 1 site assessment where we actually go out to the field and look at any sites that showed up within our contaminant resource review.
Thank you. All right, so now some of the engineering construction items that we've done since June.
Hi, my name is Amy Peters. I'm an engineering and construction project manager for the project with NextEra. These are the studies that we've performed within the project boundary since June. We've done a subsurface geotechnical investigation, so we've dug 20-foot bores into the soils to understand the profiling, to identify those soil profiles, and to understand the soil strength, as well as other sort of electrical properties of the soils for our construction process. We've also done our LiDAR and topography surveys to understand the existing contours that are within the project boundary and to identify the tree and line heights. As it's a timber farm, we need to understand what those heights both within the boundary and around the boundary are. And then we've done our hydrology studies to map the existing water flow patterns and existing flood depths within the project boundary. And we've discovered with those studies that there are very little pooling areas currently within the project boundary, and they're very shallow where they are. And the soil profiles are very sandy, so they allow for water to drain through the soils easily. And then with this, we will then design our solar array around these properties to make it the most optimal site.
Thank you, Annie.
So what we typically do for stakeholder engagement is pretty extensive. As a friendly reminder, we're still pretty early in the process for this project. We obviously work with landowners. We normally work with like county supervisors, eventually would be presenting with like the county board and such. Obviously have presented with the town board previously in June. We'll have future outreach like the local school districts to see how we can get involved, make sure they're informed about the project. We do have a specific tribal team that does Native American tribal outreach as well. We're one of the only renewable energy developer companies that has a team, especially for Native American tribal outreach. We've already started Chamber of Commerce outreach at the county level, and we'll be joining the chamber. And then in the future, we'll be doing sheriff and EMS outreach as well to inform local law enforcement and EMS staff about the project and where it's at, address questions and such. So our company likes to get involved in local communities and see how we can be a beneficial community partner. So in various projects across the state and the region, there's multiple ways we can get involved and help out. We often work with local school districts on STEM-related projects. We've donated to for new laptops, new STEM equipment, to robotics clubs. So we're looking to do school district outreach in the future to see how we could be involved. We've supported youth athletics, sheriff and EMS services across the Midwest region. We've really worked with first responders if they need help with like new search and rescue equipment. We've donated money for search and rescue drones, for improving water tankers, new EMS radios. So there's a lot of ways we can help out local first responders. Like I said, we do Chamber of Commerce outreach. We had presented with the Economic Development Corporation for Adams County back in July. We've worked with FFA in the past. Like I said, we've worked a lot with volunteer fire departments, and we've done food pantry donations in Wisconsin and are looking to do some in the area as well. For this particular project, we have done a few donations. We had donated to United Way when they had their Stuff the Bus event for United Way that covers southern Wood County and Adams County. It was an event to help children with school supplies, so we donated to that. And then we are also a sponsor at the Adams County Fair in August, and we're going to be looking at additional opportunities to get involved in the community.
So with that, that kind of ends the informational presentation. Let's go to Q&A. Right? How do we want to get? Okay, so we'll go Q&A. So again, these questions are specific to the project or the information you have. Right? If you have concerns, just wait for the session for that. But let's go ahead and get started.
This is a done deal.
When you say done deal,
Like,
we're progressing through the.
So has it been endorsed by town of Rome?
We need to get a mic on him, so.
Yeah. So what? Okay. So his question. So his question is if it's a done deal. So it's not, when we say that we're progressing through the project, right? It's still very early. There's different things that need to take place. We need to get continue to do different survey results. Need to get the correct findings. Being able to get a customer and so forth. So when you say it's a done deal, no, there's so many things that we still need to do, but we are progressing to be able to get it permitted and hopefully getting an off-taker or a customer.
Has it been
So-
permitted?
No, we're too early. We'll be coming back when we are getting ready to permit. That was our promise when we met.
Has the board endorsed it?
I'm sorry?
Has the board endorsed it?
No, so the board doesn't endorse. This is a state permitted project. Anything in Wisconsin over 100 megawatts goes through a state approval process. So we are not ready to submit an application to the state yet. Again, we still need to conduct different engineering construction items and environmental items before we're ready to submit an application. Okay, so then that's what, yes, sir.
Who determines the boundaries? I mean,
So, yeah.
where we are.
Sure, the boundary, so his question is who determines the boundary? The boundary is the landowner's land. So it's the land that we were able to lease from this landowner voluntarily. Right, so that's his land and that's the boundary, right? So that's how the boundary is determined. Yes, ma'am.
Were we to give our name and address?
In the session for support or concern.
My question, can you explain the energy created? How does that benefit our local community?
Sure, her question was, how does the energy generated benefit the local community? So the energy generated will be taken by an electric company within the area, right? So it's usually, it could be a Lion, it could be WEC, I'm not sure who exactly is the author, but it could be various. Once the energy is generated and pushed into the grid, right now it gets a little more technical from how it's distributed and so forth, but it's a collaboration between MISO, right? The transmission owner is normally the person that owns the poles and the wires, right? And then MISO is the independent systems operator and the electric company. And then they distribute it to their customers depending on how much generation is being pushed, right? So for example, Alliance says, okay, from this area I need 200 megawatts. This project is giving me 200 megawatts. It's pushed to the grid, and through that system and infrastructure is distributed to Alliance customers in this example, right? Alliance is not our customer. I'm just using that as an example.
How do you not know who our customer is?
No, so,
How do you not know who our customer is?
well, it's not that I don't know who your
You
customer
do not,
is,
because
so,
you said Alliance. How do you
Okay.
not know who our customer is?
I apologize, ma'am, I'm using different examples
You
of
should be
the area,
prepared.
because it could
Just
be,
saying.
it could be, yes,
It's a tough crowd right now.
yes, sir.
Manheim, 14th Drive, live over there in a little ways. My
How come
question
we
is-
can't get a mic on our people, but you have a mic?
Yep, exactly.
You,
There's a wireless mic on the table. Use the wireless mic on the table to pass
there
it
you
on.
My question is, there's a lot of companies making solar panels. China makes the solar panels that are only 1/3 the quality of American-made solar panels. How can we find out who is making these solar panels? And can we inspect them to see is it American-made or is it China-made? I know we can't stop this project, but at least we can make sure that it's American-made project. Parts.
we can, from a supply chain, we have a supply chain department that kind of procures all this information for us. I could get back to you on that question to let you know where the manufacturers. Our company does work with various manufacturers, right? We don't focus on one or another, but we can find an answer for you specifically.
You need to give it to all of us, we're all interested.
Amen.
Sure, however is best distributed, we'll work with the board to see how we can distribute that information. The gentleman in the middle there.
Yeah, your map showed a huge tract of land that you were going to have access to. You said that you probably wouldn't use 100% of that land. Can you tell me what percentage of that land is going to be cut to have solar panels on it?
Sure. Well, it's an estimate at the time, right?
I understand.
The amount of land is a little over 2,000 acres. A 200 megawatt project is usually around 5 acres per megawatt, right? So we have 200 megawatts is about 1,000. It has to be buildable. So that's why we need to determine what are the best buildable acres within that boundary. So you would say that based on that calculation, about half, give or take, would be used for solar panels. The gentleman behind.
Is there gonna be a tree buffer so we don't see this ugly thing?
Yeah, we are working with engineering construction, and we're trying to do. There's already trees there to use as natural screening.
So there'll definitely be trees there, so you don't see.
That was a concern, right? And we are trying to work the best way possible to be able to do that. There's several concerns that came from the original meeting, which was screening, which was trails, and so forth, right? So
you think that was part B? Doesn't sound like you're certain that there's gonna be a buffer of trees yet.
No, we want to do it. It's just, again, we have to have the layout, and we're working with engineering construction to see how we get that done. But that is this is something that we are working
And
on.
then what happens to the trails that were there that we all enjoyed?
It's too early. It's too early to tell. We are working again with the layout. Since there's no layout, right? Since there is no layout, we don't know what the impact is, right? We're trying to avoid impact as much as possible. But if there is an impact, we'll try to reroute as much as we can and save as many other trails that we can, right? So instead of going through a conversation that, again, if we don't know what the impact is, that's going to be a conversation which I'm very well aware of once we have the layout and we know what the impact is.
So do you foresee when we're taking our UTVs, there's gonna be solar panels on both sides of the trails?
It's too early. I don't have a layout, so I can't tell you. The gentleman with the hat.
I have two quick questions. The first, will any energy be stored on site?
We would not have, at the moment, we do not have a battery storage assigned to this project.
Everything would be transmitted?
Right. Now, for example, if we sell this to a customer could add a battery, years from now. Right? But they have to go through the process of getting a permit and so forth. But that's always a potential with solar projects where a customer could choose to put a battery in the future.
Second question was, what about waste from the facility? Certainly, panels go bad. Panels will have to be replaced in time. What's the process and what is the town should be looking forward to, so the town board members are paying attention? Do we get these panels in our transfer site? I understand right now they're very difficult to recycle, so what's the situation on that?
Yeah. From a prospect, we're going to have techs supporting the site, so if panels need to be changed out and so forth, they have a process internally where they replace the panel and then decommission it or just,
Yeah,
dispose of
we
it
take the
properly.
panels to an off-site recycling facility. We want the materials within those panels to be reused, either within future panels or in other materials.
But not on site.
It won't be on site. We'll have crews come on, uninstall the panels that we want to remove, take them to one of our off-site recycling facilities.
The gentleman and the-
I wonder if you can tell me, what's the long-term retirement plan for a facility like this? What happens at the end, and what does it look like? Who's responsible for it? And what guarantees do we have that you own that responsibility and we're not burdened with it?
Sure, and Matt, you can correct me here if I misspeak here. But so when you're building, part of the permitting process in Wisconsin is there's a certain amount of funds allocated for what we call a decommissioning process, right? So it could be 10, 15, whatever the amount is for a project, and what the PSC requires, right? So in the event that the company doesn't do their responsibilities, it's a bond, they don't decommission property, they'll use those funds to decommission themselves. How does that process look? I don't know what that process will be in 25 years. So much things would change. I'll give you an example. Turbines that were built 15 years ago, they do what we call repower, right? They get more efficient technology and so forth. In 25 years, probably have more efficient panels. We'll probably have different type of technology. It could be reused in different ways. So, however, if the decision is made, it's going to be decommissioned, there's a particular process, kind of like the way that we dispose of it, that the company, either ourselves, if we're managing and operating, or the client has to complete as required by the state.
So I just want to make sure I understood what you said. You're going to make a deposit with the Public Service Commission,
Yep.
and that money's going to stay there for 25 years until you fulfill the obligations, or the site is cleaned and restored.
Correct.
And in the event of a sale of the site,
All those trees back.
Yep.
and in the event of a sale of the facility, what happens then?
Yeah, it's a bond, right? So when you say deposit, it's a bond, but that responsibility, so when
Those are usually front-end performance related. This one you're telling me is back-end performance assured?
I'm not understanding.
Well, usually a bond is put in up front to make sure you build I'm sorry. Usually a bond is put in place at the front end to make sure the project is completed. You got a good incentive to do that because it will generate income for the company. I'm more worried about the back end. Is there money set aside now that ensures proper decommissioning and restoration of the site on the tail end? And then secondly, if you sell this facility to a private entity of some sort, who takes on that responsibility and what assurances do we have?
So during the Public Service Commission approval process, we had to provide that decommissioning plan. Our company also does a bond on the front end for decommissioning specifically. In the case of like a customer like Alliant Energy or another electric utility purchasing this project from us, it's also another process that has to go through the Public Service Commission, and they have to approve the purchase of a project like this. Any customer that would buy this project has to adhere to every permit that we have, every lease agreement. So all the legal requirements stay with the project. So if Alliant Energy would purchase this from us after we construct it, they would be the ones who would have like the decommissioning plan, all the easements, all the leases, all the legal agreements.
What's the decommission process? Do they take the solar panels out and plant new trees again? Or are we stuck with all the structure?
So we will remove all the panels and everything 4 feet below the surface as our typical, and then it reverts back to the landowner, because it's a lease agreement, right? So then it's back to the landowner to decide what to do with that property after the project is decommissioned. But we will remove all infrastructure at least 4 feet below surface and up.
Are you gonna put that 4 feet back?
I think his question was, how long is the lease?
Yeah, how long is the lease?
Right, typical leases are 30 years, right? 30 years with 2 10-year extension options. The ma'am at the end, I think she's had her hand up.
My question is, he brought up a good point. So she said, you're gonna take out 4 feet below, right? You're gonna take out 4 feet of land. Are you gonna put that 4 feet back? Well, I got another question.
So it's not taking out 4 feet of the land, it's everything installed 4 feet below the surface. So it's all pile driven, so we'll be removing the steel piles from the ground, and our cables are 4 feet below the surface. So we'll be removing the cable infrastructure that we also install.
Okay. And the other question, not really on that one, but the other question is, this was such a dry year, so do you feel as though that your tests this year were accurate?
It uses annual precipitation data from the past 25 years, so we can model annual precipitation and water flow throughout. It takes the averages from the past 25 years. So yes, because it's not just using this year's data, it's using data from subsequent years as well.
Okay, and I don't know this for sure, but they just built a beautiful solar farm up the road that everybody's just thrilled with. And all that electricity that they tried to shove down everybody's throat thinking it was going to be really great for us goes to Oshkosh. We don't see it, so how do you know this electricity, which sounds like it's going to be a done deal, is going to stay here and lower our costs?
It won't. Absolutely not.
What do you mean?
We already know that.
And from these co-ops, they will not. They don't want this, they can charge us.
So we're, I also have one other question, and I won't be done, but I can use it anyway. The other thing is, when you say about decommissioning those solar panels, are they gonna be like the wind generator things that they dig great big huge holes in the ground out in the desert and put all of those great big wings out there, their turbine wings out there, because they don't know what else to do with them?
That were made in China.
Yeah, they're not biodegradable.
So any answer to the decommissioning question?
Yeah, so that'll be similar to the replacement process. We'll remove the solar panels to a recycling facility because there's metals within those solar panels that we want to use. And I don't know the exact statistic, but a large portion of those solar panels, of the materials, can be reused in at least other materials. And as in 25 years, we don't know what that will look like, but it's going to get more and more efficient over time.
I think you had someone back there first.
I am extremely concerned about the impulsive, reckless
dismantle. Sorry to interrupt you, but that session has not started yet. So this is Q&A specific to the project. So this is a question related to information to the project. If you have support or concerns, we're going to get there. But just right now, it's information.
Okay, I have a concern, first of all. Is it true that these solar panels destroy all the microorganisms and invertebrates under them in the soil? And the second one is, what about the noise pollution? Could you speak on those two concerns?
From the noise, you want to talk about some of the noise? John?
Can you be specific about the question about the noise? There's inverters on the site that are converting the DC generated power into AC power that goes to the grid. The inverters are no louder than me talking right now. And we have to model, we take ambient noise readings throughout the site, and then we put that information into a model, and we also take into consideration receptors that are within a given distance of the project area. And that model runs that to see what type of decibel levels are at those receptors. And then that guides the engineers in placing the inverter so that there's there's measurable sound difference, but like I said, it's no louder than us talking in this room right now.
But what is the pitch? And
Okay, what about the destruction of valuable microorganisms and invertebrates in the soil?
I'm not familiar with anything like that.
Well, we should read up on it.
Well, I'll give you an answer. We put together a vegetation management plan that is maintained throughout the operation of the site, and the vegetation is specific to the ecoregion of the state, is specific to the soil, and the vegetation thrives under these soil panels for the entire life of the project. And most of the vegetation that's in the soil mixes are native vegetation that rely on microbes in the soil to grow.
Just saying.
Fix nitrogen and other things like that.
I have what I think is a fair question. There's 15 major cities that have a percentage of sunshine that's over 65%. And Green Bay as a major city is barely over 50%. The percentage of sunshine from sunrise to sunset that reaches the Earth's surface. So I'm just asking if you can speak on a little bit, why was this location and this latitude chosen when there's simply so many other places that have a significantly higher percentage of sun reaching the Earth from sunrise to sunset, and you picked this latitude? I don't understand that decision process.
Sure. When we're selecting a project, and we do have projects prospecting in different parts of the state, but when we're doing our due diligence and doing the process, we have a team that runs models based on understanding the energy, the sunlight percentages, or the potential of solar energy being generated. And based on those models, we're determining, okay, it's a percentage that can work, right? So we have a full team of analytics that kind of works on providing us those models. Say, hey, this site will work, this site won't work. So that's part of the due diligence, our due diligence process.
That's my question, because they put something in Saratoga.
I think this gentleman she's bringing the mic to you right there, sir.
How close can people live next to the solar farm without risking any ill health effects? I know there's a bunch of different studies out there with different distances, but I'm curious as to how close you also build to the property line of the selected site.
1.2 miles.
So from a health perspective, there's nothing that we know that I'm familiar with that causes health perspective. We have projects that are close to residencies, and then when we say close, there's a couple hundred feet separated. We do setbacks, and we work with very close landowners, right? We work with those landowners to say, okay, what's a reasonable setback that we can do, right? I think the minimum is like 90 that we normally do. 75 that we normally do, but we again, working with them, we've done more, or we've gone further, depending on the landscape that we have and the flexibility that we have.
So it could be as close as 75 feet to somebody's residence.
So a minimum of what our company aims to do is 75 foot minimum from non-participating landowners' property lines. And then we aim to do a minimum of at least 150 foot setback from non-participating residents. And we do, like Danilo said, we do have extra land leased as well if needed.
I haven't looked at all the studies. I just know some studies say 500 feet. Other studies say much further than that before there's any impact. So 75 feet seems rather short in comparison to some of the studies out there.
I'm sorry.
Thank you. What's going to happen when this is all built and a tornado comes through? Where's all that glass from those panels going to go?
I mean,
Good point.
no
answer, huh?
It's
Be able to
so
sustain or?
we build solar projects across the country. Our engineering construction teams, based on the area, build projects, understanding some of these conditions, right? So, for example, and you want to
Yeah, we look at the area and we find the risk 2 level for the ACSC, so it's National Wind Measurements. And so for this site, I think it's 115 miles per hour at least. We have to design our structures too. And we build these in areas that are in hurricane heavy areas. Florida is one of our most built states. And so that can withstand a hurricane, and we make sure that we build our facilities to withstand the wind concerns in this area. They're up to the tornado standards of this area. You don't have a hurricane. You don't have a hurricane up here. The stronger the winds, the stronger our structural design has to be. And so we design our structures and our support system to those wind levels in the area.
One went through Plainfield years ago.
Can you redefine the word local? I've heard you say it several times. This lady asked about local, meaning where was the power going to go to benefit the local people? And the local was Oshkosh. You said that you were going to sell to a local energy company, but you couldn't even name a local energy company here.
Yeah.
So is local the state of
Wisconsin?
Is
Local,
is local Adams County?
is local the state of
Wisconsin?
Got it.
Is local Illinois?
Illinois? Is local Midwest? Please define what local means.
Sure, so local would be the energies, the electric companies within the infrastructure in this area. So to your point, it might not be local to the community here, not saying that it's not, but when we say local is the energy companies using the local infrastructure, right, to distribute their energy. So when we say, but one second, again, 1 second is, when we have a customer, the energy goes to the customer, it goes to whoever purchases it, right? So in the area, when we say local, it's that local energy infrastructure, the grid.
Okay, so the grid, our grid comes, how far out is our grid? Is it Illinois? Is it Wisconsin? Where is our grid?
I would have to see every aspect of your grid that supports this and the different electric companies that can purchase or would want to purchase the electricity to distribute through that. So that's a question we could follow up saying, hey.
You haven't looked into that?
We're very early into the project. When we get there, we've shared that as we go through the process, we're going to share with you what we can share with you when we have an off-taker, as far as what they want to do with the energy, whether it's local here or transmitted through here, that's on them.
Well, you would know now, local, when you're going to sell this, you're going to reach out to companies to sell it to. Are you going to reach out to a company in Georgia?
No.
Are you going to reach out to a company in Illinois?
No.
Is Illinois still a possibility? Is Minnesota a possibility?
No.
Is Wisconsin a possibility? I'm trying to get a definition of what local is.
Is your definition of the grid, the ATC, American Transmission Company? There they have the high tension wires in Wisconsin.
Correct. So that's the transmission owner that we talked about,
So
right?
once it gets on that grid, it can go anywhere.
Well, they'll distribute, no, so you don't, so they're not all tied together. They're not all, that's why you have different independent systems operators, and you also have different transmission owners. So there's different companies that own the poles and the cables and so forth.
We're talking the high tension wires.
That's a transmission, yeah, that's a transmission, right? That's part of the grid, that's what we talk about, right? So again, there might be several utility companies within the area that use that infrastructure and would want to purchase energy from this project to go into that infrastructure to distribute to their customers. Right?
Isn't the American Transmission Company, the same one where they had that cascading effect from the Northeast that came all the way here to the Midwest with blackouts?
Yep.
Yes. I mean, there was a huge blackout many years ago, and it just kept cascading to the Midwest from
I'm not familiar with
Northeast.
That event. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that event. So You want to bring, sure.
Hello, my name is Michael Vickerman. I work for Renew Wisconsin. We are a state-based organization that promotes renewable energy development throughout Wisconsin. So the question I heard was, what is local and what infrastructure is used when the power is injected? So what will happen here is that the power from the solar project will be injected into a substation that's owned by the American Transmission Company. The American Transmission Company is owned by Wisconsin Utilities. It's owned by Alliant, Wisconsin Electric, Wisconsin Public Service, Madison Gas and Electric. It is highly likely that the project or the power from that project will be purchased by one of those Wisconsin utilities that I just mentioned. The power will stay in the state of Wisconsin. The power flows and it pushes electricity towards the intended customer, and once that electricity arrives at that customer's territory, it is used by the customers within that utility territory.
So we have 15 minutes left, so we could continue with questions. Do we want at some point move to the sessions of concerns or support? All right, so we'll stay with Q&A. We'll stay with Q&A. I think this gentleman over here has been attempting to.
I wanted to find out the way the property is zoned now. It's a forest crop. Does that change at all with this lease or for the duration of the lease?
That's a good question. I'm not familiar too much with the zoning of it. Would you know, Chris?
That's part of the permitting process. I'm Chris Gearhart. I'm a representative of the landowner, Meteor Timber. Just to say, yeah, thanks. I'm also a lawyer, just to add on to it. So, I got to laugh. That's good. We are, really excited to partner with NextEra on this project. My client is in the timber business. We treat timber as crops. Sometimes other opportunities come up. Solar is a growing industry. We're really excited to partner with NextEra. We've heard some concerns about trails. To the extent we can, my client allows trails to be operated on his property. As a private property owner, we're going to continue to do that to the extent, NextEra project is consistent with that. I heard some comments about decommissioning. This is a lease, so my client will still own the property when this is done. So we have a real vested interest in making sure that the decommissioning occurs properly and the site's managed properly. And we wouldn't have worked with NextEra if we weren't confident that they could do that. As far as zoning is concerned, that's a county issue. I don't believe any rezoning is necessary because this is a PSC state permitted process.
You live here?
I live in Eau Claire.
More sun.
One more question really quickly. You had a lovely picture of restored prairie in front of the solar panels. Can that kind of restoration take place in the actual footprint of where the panels are, or just on the perimeter?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the first part of that. I have a picture of what? Sorry.
Restored prairie?
The answer is yes. The answer is yes. The PSC commonly requires some type of pollinator or native prairie be established on the perimeter of the projects, and that acreage varies on the project. But it's typically in the PSC order that X amount of acres will be restored.
So that's the perimeter, the footprint of where the panels are themselves, that's mowed pretty shortly, it looked like.
Yeah, it's generally under 10 inches high.
So the perimeter is where you see.
Yeah, the reason why we don't want the taller vegetation within the panel arrays is because that could cause damage to the tracking system. It rotates throughout the day, and then it could also cause electrical fires. Tall grass near electrical equipment is not a good idea, so that's why those pollinators are usually on the buffer regions. Yep.
Gentlemen, you've been.
So you've talked about the amount of money that you're investing in this project. You've talked about the amount of money generated by taxes and what you try to do to participate in communities. There are huge federal incentives for projects of this magnitude. So your company is obviously getting some of those incentives. What kind of dollar figure can we attach to that? What is your company receiving from the federal government to subsidize a project like this?
You know, it all depends. One, yes, there is incentives in renewable, right? We've been doing this for a long time, so there is. We're in it to also make a business, right? So we're the largest for a reason. We know how to do it, right? And then we can sell it, right? So from the numbers of what we will make, I don't know. We don't have that. Right. We don't have a customer. We don't have a customer. We're going through the process. So a lot of these studies are done, right, to understand the layout, how it could do, which impacts the pricing. Another big factor to our cost impacts the pricing is the cost for the network upgrade. So when we connect to the grid, the ISO, right, in this case MISO, tells us, hey, this is what it's going to cost for your project to connect to the grid. We don't have that.
So I've done a little investigating.
Okay, but wait.
And so the federal subsidies can be up to $50,000 per acre. Times 2,000 acres, do the math, folks. That's a lot of money right off the cuff.
Sir, over here.
Two parts here. How many of these solar farms has your company built? And how many do they still own?
I don't have that number off the top of my head. I could get that. It's across the state. No, but in Wisconsin or across the country?
Across the country.
Yeah.
In other words, are you just getting into it to get into it and get your money and get out of it?
We've been doing this. We've been doing this for a long time. We're the largest in the world for a reason.
And the landowner, with one more question, the landowner, when this is all over and done with and you guys have taken all your equipment away, if the landowner decides to sell that property somewhere in the middle of the lease, what guarantees do we have that it's not going to be a sand pit when it's all done?
I'm sorry. I was trying to get that. So he put it. So right now, operating, we have over 40 states, over 50 solar sites, and 150 wind energy centers, right? And that number's off of 2022.
When did you start?
I think late 90s to be exact.
Okay, so 50 years hasn't passed yet.
No.
Right, so we don't have any clue what you're really doing with the property when it's done. Because you never came to that.
From a decommissioning perspective?
Never done a decommissioning site yet, is that correct?
I don't know if that's accurate. I don't know if that's accurate. I will definitely follow up on those questions. So, I think the lady in the back of it to the left.
I have heard that you have to wash these panels so often or whatever. I'm not exactly sure how that works. But is there any effect on the lakes? Because, do you take the water that you use for these panels out of our lakes?
So more often than not, the rainfall is what can wash away the panels because you don't want the dirt on the panels. You need the clear paint. So then we would likely have someone come out and wash off the panels using water from the system, but we also have a stormwater prevention plan. So we will have drainage systems to collect that water that we wash off and then clear it, filter it throughout the soils, similar to any sort of rainfall.
So if the water is collected for you guys to wash panels, it won't go into our watershed then?
Right. And where's the water?
What about water quality?
We'll have a stormwater plan that will measure the water quality, we'll do studies both pre-construction and post-construction on what the water quality will look like throughout the solar lifespan.
Mr. Cabrera, this is basically the same presentation you gave in June with the addition of the question and answers. And my question or my concern, because it kind of crosses the line, is would you be in favor of the town of Rome creating a referendum question to see what the community would like to see? You talk about being a good neighbor, that means we're concerned about each other. And it sounds like this isn't all in favor of solar right now.
Yeah, right.
So your question is if...
Would you be in favor of the town of Rome creating a referendum asking the taxpayers, the voters of this community, what their preference is regarding this project?
I think it's not about what I would be in favor of. I think we have to respect the rights of the landowner here, right? The landowner owns this land, and this is his choice. It voluntarily chose to lease this land, right? No different that if you have land and you want to build something on it, and you go through the proper process of getting it approved, right? You can build on your land. So when you ask that, right, is hey, that is something for the landowner, right? And think of his rights on what he wants to do for his land. And really, right? So that question there, I know it's from the perspective of everyone that has concerns about the project, right? But again, we're here, we're informative. We're trying to collaborate with you as we can as we progress through the project, right? In June, we were here in June, and we said we'll come back, and I shared it would be the same presentation and only share what we have done since, and that's what we're doing today. And then we're doing the Q&A because now this meeting will specifically we ask that we have the entire time to be able to hear from as many people as we can. Right? And what we met in our message back then, which is our message today, we want to be a good partner, right? We want to build this, and we want to collaborate with you as much as we can within reason.
I'm pretty sure you're right, Mr. Cabrera. Meteor Group owns land from Maine to California, or they manage land from Maine to California, right? Same as Plum Creek used to. Chris, I'm sure could answer that. They've been a good neighbor. They have maintained the property in the original condition. Everybody in this community cares about it. You had said something in one of your last statements in June, saying that whatever Rome wants or needs to help see this project evolve, you would be in favor of. And I think one of the things that maybe Rome would want would probably be the opinion of the community, which I don't think Meteor Group would have a problem with.
So there's a few issues with that. I don't have a microphone on me, but I do a lot of town law as well. And under Wisconsin law, you can only do a non-binding referendum. So it'll just be an advisory opinion. And again, this is a state permitted process.
That being said, we're trying to do as much community outreach as we can. We can perhaps work with NextEra to come up with some type of survey to get more input. That would be a lot more beneficial and effective than doing an advisory referendum where you can only have a single question on a ballot. That doesn't provide much guidance or input to us as the property owner or to NextEra as the tenant and the operator of the project.
And to add on to what Danilo and Chris said, so this is a state level commission process that we'll have to go through, very extensive process, usually a year-long permitting process. our company and team have also said we're willing to work with the town of Rome to do like a joint development agreement to discuss, potential issues, potential concerns as well. So just want to highlight that as well.
Everyone, I think we're coming up on our time, right? So
Okay.
I want to share my contact information.
Yep.
Feel free to call, text, email me, right? And we'll get the answers. We'll get those answers soon.
Right down that road.
All right. Thank you again for your time today.
Used up our time, I guess.
Yeah.